guest today. I'm Santi Villoni, CEO and co-founder at Core. And here is also Facu Black, who's the Executive VP and Enterprise General Manager at Core. And our special guest for today is David Sable. David is one of the most recognized names in the creative industry, current author, entrepreneur, and activist that has shaped the world of advertising as we know it today. He is currently vice chairman at Stagwell. He is former global CEO of Young & Rubicam, one of the largest creative agencies in the world, and former vice president and COO at Wunderman Thompson. David is not only going to discuss the trends and challenges that agencies are dealing with nowadays, but will also help me co-host our second edition of Core Latin American Awards. So, as many of you are aware, Core is the all-in-one management solution for agencies that automates timesheets to help managers negotiate fees, increase billable hours, and reduce work overload. So far, Core has been instrumental in aiding agencies of all sizes, both small, medium, and very, very, very large agencies around the world in 38 countries to increase the revenue by 36% year over year. This growth is mostly facilitated through enabling them negotiating their fees and maximizing their billable hours. Core is backed by top Silicon Valley investors from seasoned entrepreneurs like the one you can see here as Kevin O'Connor, who's the founder of DoubleClick, the largest company that Google ever acquired. Also, the CTO at YouTube, the founder of Anaplan, also a public company, the founder of Mercado Libre, who's it's the Amazon for Latin America, a $100 billion company in NASDAQ. Also the founder of OutZero, acquired by Okta on $6.5 billion. A bunch of other the former global CEO at Walmart, and a bunch of other entrepreneurs, very successful entrepreneurs. At the same time, very big venture capital firms from Silicon Valley, like our first VC backing the company was 500 Startups, which is called today 500 Global, then Scope Venture Capital, and lately GFC, Global Founders Capital, which is the fund that also invested in Slack, in LinkedIn, in Meta. So we're happy to have all of these very strong players on board. And in order to get started, we are very happy to have all of you here. As you all know, we are going to review the benchmarks today, industry benchmarks, most of them operational financial benchmarks. And after that, please stay tuned, because we're going to do the delivery of all our core awards. So we'll be happy to celebrate our community, our core community's achievement. In this virtual event, we will talk about all this, the state of the agencies, and see the latest trends and benchmarks in the marketing and advertising industry. David, thanks for being here with us today.
No, thank you, Santi. It's always a pleasure. As you know, I've been a big supporter of Core almost since you started and since we first met. And it's particularly gratifying to be here with such a great group of people, industry leaders, thought leaders, and others. And I look forward to a great discussion. So let's dive right in.
Thank you, David. So to better understand the industry benchmarks, it's important to first know the origin of the vision, right? And since our beginnings at Core, we have tried to give visibility of what we think at Core is kind of the mother of all challenges or problems within this industry, which is the deviation of time between what is sold and what is executed. In this creative industry, within the creative agencies, consuming more time than estimated makes profitable projects unprofitable, and also available teams become unavailable. And today, employee turnover in the industry is at its peak. It's 60% as an average on the most junior and operational roles. And if we consider the agency, the creative agency as a whole, we're at 45% of employee turnover. If we consider the quantitative reasons for this turnover, we're going to find mostly salaries and workload. And if we think of salaries and workload, we're going to find that the common denominator is the same for both of these, which is the fee, right? The fee today does not represent the value of the work. So how do we solve this problem, right? So deviation of time between what is sold and what is executed gives us unprofitable projects, unavailable teams, which produces very bad salaries and work overload, right? So how do we solve this? And if we apply common sense, it kind of seems very easy, right? And we gotta sell all our available hours at the best price possible, right? Sell all our available hours at the best price possible. And this is not just for creative agencies in the US or internationally. Like, we're talking about the billable hour market. We're within the professional services industry. Like, this, selling all our available time at the best possible price is the best business that a creative agency can do. A consulting firm, a software development shop, a law firm, an accounting firm. And this is not that, don't take me wrong. I'm a background of creative communicator, worked at an agency. This is not that we're not valuing creativity. It's that we need to understand that time is our unit of measurement. It's our raw material. So this is a P per Q business, where on one side we have all the time that we gotta sell. Like, every month we start with a huge bag of a ton of hours that we gotta sell, and on the other hand, we need to sell each of these hours at the best price possible, depending on the position and other factors, right? So our goal at Core is help you, creative agency, get the maximum, get at the top right corner of this P per Q chart, right? How is giving the visibility you need on the decisions to be made. That said, we now have a clear, I want you to set the room for a clear understanding on why all the benchmarks and trends we're going to see regarding time management are very, very important for the health of our businesses. So let's go deep into the industry benchmarks, trends, and challenges.
Okay, thanks, Santi. And Dave, it's always a pleasure to share these spaces with you. Thank you all for joining. So let's begin with an introduction to our second edition core report. This global report aims to provide a clear view of how agencies are overcoming the new demands and challenges brought by the current global situation. Topics such as operational efficiency, project management, profitability, talent turnover, client relationship, lack of visibility in operations, difficulty in measuring worked and billed hours, and the need to optimize resource allocation are some of the things we're going to discuss today and see about our research. We have selected a piece, some topics that will resonate with the challenges and aspirations of the agencies. Of course, we won't see the full report. You can all download the full report. That is a huge report with really valuable data. So today we're going to go through all these main topics. Next, we will learn about the updated, the previous slide, please. Next, we will learn about the updated and relevant information on the current state of agencies, which provide us with some insights, right? We will talk about these 5 main topics, topics that are underpinned by the 2 fundamental pillars in impacting an agency profit. That is deviations, what Santi mentioned, and how to measure and increase billable hours, okay? Just to end this slide, all the information that we will see today before the core awards is built with mainly 3 things. Firstly, our core report, which is a survey done to executives from marketing and advertising agencies all around the world, firstly. Secondly, we will review benchmarks based on real data of their operations, of course, anonymized. And thirdly, we will review some business cases on how going to these benchmarks can significantly impact the agency profits, okay? So, about the respondents, these are the main characteristics of the moisture. The moisture data is representative as we have executives from marketing and advertising agencies all around the world, first of all. Secondly, we have companies from all sizes, from very small companies, very small independent agencies to the largest holding companies around the world, okay? So let's start. We always start our reports with this general question about main challenges, about the main problems, and more than 40% of the respondents expressed a constant need to maximize revenue and enhance profitability. Today, creative agencies are confronting a multitude of challenges that directly impact their profits and their operational efficiency. So what do you say, David, if we start like going through all these things together?
Sure. So let's start here. What I find interesting is if I go back to what Santi said before, and he talked about other companies in the service arena. So when you think about lawyers and you think about accountants and you think about consultants, from the dawn of history, those people worked on hours. They billed their hours, they logged their hours, they worked on it. We never did as an industry. Now it's 30 years, we have been, but we haven't caught up yet with it. So it used to be in the old days before you guys were born, when the agencies worked on commission, nobody billed out because nobody cared about hours. You got paid, you worked, and that was the end of it. But it's been forever that we've had to work based on FTEs. And it's amazing to me that we haven't caught up with that need. So what happens is we don't have operational visibility as we should, particularly in the creative area. And because of that, we lose billable hours. I mean, I can't tell you how many agencies I've heard say to me, yeah, well, we don't do it. We just add extra hours to, we just bring in more people. Well, that's how come you're not profitable. And so the need for operational visibility, you can see in the chart, is the most important. That's the thing that people call out the most, right? It's critical. And that, by the way, comes to billable hours, improving. We're going to talk about these things and improving rate negotiations. But the first piece is the visibility, having operational visibility. And it's not just, by the way, my friends, for the bean counters. It's for the creative directors too, because it'll make your life a lot easier knowing what you need, how many more people you need or might need, or have you overworked a particular project? It's critical.
Yeah, completely agree. So what do you think about this, David? When we went to
No,
ask,
this makes the point, right? 42% of agencies say their projects aren't profitable, and the rest claim they're break even. So it's a problem. I mean, we've got this problem. So yes, there are lots that are profitable, right? Almost 60%. But the truth is that even there, they're not as profitable as they can be. And of course, as we all know, one of the big problems is that today, unless certainly all of the companies that are related to the holding companies, many are public companies, publicly traded. Profitability is very important.
Mhm.
And so without understanding how to manage your time, which you can't do unless you have operational visibility, it is very hard to achieve true profitability or the profitability that might be right. I mean, you might be getting a 10% margin when you should be getting easily a 20% margin or more.
Yeah, completely agree. I found very interesting in here that it's one of the few industries where agencies have clients or projects or fees that are not profitable. Like we are working for free most of the times, right?
Right.
So I think, as you mentioned, Dave, that transparency is key because not only builds strong relationships with clients by sharing internal processes, but it's also essential for effective time and resource management, right? In the
Yep.
marketing and advertising agency sector, creativity and strategies are fundamental and critical, as you mentioned, but internal management is equally critical for efficiency and for profits.
But by the
Transfer
way, let's just take a look at this page and understand that it's not just internal. So, and again, internal is for the management of the company, right? The financial management. It's also for the management of the department and for the betterment of the work, because I think the work is better when you know who to assign and you know you have the right people. But I think what's also important, and this is something that Fago, we've been talking about over the past few years, this notion of transparency with clients is critical. Because look at the having visibility of deviations and visibility of reworks. Like that's really critical.
Mhm.
Not to mention deliverables. I mean, deliverables obviously, right? So deliverables,
Course.
clients always want to know about deliverables, but I think it's important, and we'll talk about it when we get into renegotiation, but understanding how much have we deviated from the original scope of work? How many times has the client come in and changed direction or given us an extra brief or added to the brief? Most of the time that just kind of gets lost in the shuffle, as do the reworks, right? So as you know, many client agency contracts actually limit the amount of reworks, right? There are many contracts in the world that say you get one idea and then you get to rework it 3 times or 2 or whatever they decide, but it's rare that it ever sticks to that amount. It's usually more.
Yeah, completely agree.
And so unless you can prove, unless you can show, unless you give visibility to it, you don't know. But more importantly, the client doesn't know. So when you come back to renegotiate, you have nothing to talk about.
Yeah, and there's no client in the world willing to pay more if they have no visibility on why it took more time than they estimated, right?
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I think
15,
this, sorry.
yeah, go on. No, I was just gonna say 15 to 40% of time is devoted to reworks. So think about that. Like, so let's say it's even the maximum, 40%. That means you spent 60% on the core of your work, but you spent another 40% reworking it and reworking and reworking, working, and that doesn't even include the deviations.
Yeah, I like to separate the operational visibility into two main things, right? The first step to stop thinking of visibility as a problem and to turn it into an advantage is to centralize all your project information in one place. And I think that, of course, you are not going to give a client visibility if you are not comfortable with your internal visibility. So there's a first step on internal management that when you are able to have a clear visibility of your operations, then you can give this visibility to the clients and completely change the mindset of these relationships, right? Okay. So let's go into, I just as an introduction, Dave, you have led the biggest companies all around the world. I speak in a daily basis with agency leaders of different sizes, and I see that most of the times, all the times, CEOs are hired for a new role, and the main goal is to increase profits, right? To increase revenue. And it's so challenging for these roles to renegotiate a fee that most of the time the focus is in how to reduce cost to be more profitable, right? And it's like a short marriage, because there's one or two or 3 points to be increased there, but that's it. And I believe that renegotiating fees, it's key for making an agency more profitable or more healthier, right? And this, let's start with deviations, like in a huge thing, right? A staggering 93% of the respondents mentioned that their initial works experience changes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about it, as I said. I mean, that's a frightening number. That's absolutely frightening number. And so unless you know that, and again, it's all about being able to document, because unless you document it and you have clear documentation, then you can't do anything with this information. At best, you kind of know it in your head. And by the way, just keep that in mind as we look at some of the numbers coming up, because I think that this is really the key number, and I think that it makes some of the other numbers suspect to me. And this we talked about, right? 15 to 40% is dedicated to rework. I mean, it's crazy. Because you're not getting paid for it, folks.
Yeah, completely. What we see here is that respondents mentioned this 15-40%, which is in line with the benchmark we are going to share in a couple of minutes, right? But yeah, reworks are a structural problem. So here you can see it, right? We can see that in agencies, this is benchmark based on data, 25% of the time of an agency is dedicated to rework. 1 out of 4 weeks. 1 out of 4 weeks of a collaborator is dedicated to reworks, where the composition of these reworks is 30% of the reworks are internally, and 70% of the reworks are requested by the clients. Reworks from the initial scope of work and reworks, new reworks. So this is, what do you think about this, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, again, as we said, this is a devastating number. If 25% of your time that you're not getting paid for, and so remember, you've negotiated a contract, and so for a piece of the contract, 75%, maybe you're getting paid, but there's still pieces of that aren't so clear. But for 25%, you're clearly not getting paid. No way. Certainly not to the extent of what the reworks cost you. So that means that a quarter of the time of your people who are working on this is just for free.
Just
So
for free.
if you wonder where your profitability goes, here's a good place to start to look at. And again, if you look at the numbers, so if 30% are internal, meaning that you've decided yourself, or maybe you made a mistake. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, right? We know that. But if 70% are requested by the client, those are deviations. I consider those deviations, not reworks. That makes the deviation number even bigger.
Completely agree. So let's talk about right now, related to reworks and related to estimations, initial estimations, about deviation control. 1 out of 2 agencies do not track deviations at all, showing that what we have discussed at the beginning, right? If agencies do not track what we agreed is the main problem in the industry, that is deviations between what is sold and what is executed, there's no possible way to solve this structural problem. this will obviously derive in unprofitable projects, unprofitable clients, and then of course, unprofitable business, right? So let's go to the next one. So
yeah, just one thing. If this is a point, if we were in a live presentation now, which one day will be again, I would turn to the audience and say, okay, everybody cover your eyes so nobody has to see what anyone else says, because I don't believe that 45% of you are actually tracking the deviations. So honest, hand on your heart, put your other hand up. If you really, truly track them, you're tracking all the time, because I don't believe they are. I think that the number is actually way more than 50% do not properly track.
And yeah, I agree, Dave, with you. It would be an interesting exercise to do sometime, but it's important not to see, right? Because if you're seeing who answers, I'm not sure everyone is going to be honest. It's part of it. So after this, we are seeing that in the first place, executives mentioned clients or projects unprofitable, first of all. Second, deviations. So thirdly, we went and asked, how do you estimate your fees? How do you estimate your projects, right? If this is going to take how much time, how do you calculate that estimation? So it's one FTE of a designer, a copywriter. So how much is going to take? And I think here, besides the 59%, I think the most significant value in here is that none of the agencies responded that they estimate their projects or their fees in real data, right? It's all based on past experiences that carry errors. Guessing or benchmarking, right? If I know an agency is establishing, let's say, 5 FTEs during 3 months for a website, just an example, then I will estimate the same in order to win the pitch or to be competitive in the pitch, right? So I think in here, we have one of the main problems, right? In how we estimate things in the initial thing. And surprisingly, 70% seldom renegotiate projects budget with clients. So in here, we can see the same, right? We estimate wrong, we do not track deviations, and then we are not able to renegotiate or have visibility with the clients.
Yeah, so I think this is actually sort of the key page. And the notion is, like, if you look at agencies that actually use the system, and the successful people have been able to renegotiate contracts, and as you point out, some by over 35%, because this tool is the transparent tool that allows the agency and the client to look together. And it's rare, right? Just look at these numbers. 70% rarely renegotiate. And I bet you that the rarely means they ask the question, the client says no, and that's the end of it. And the reason the client says no is because they don't have the information. Because the clients believe anyways that you've probably overstaffed and it's your fault, and they're not looking at all the other information. They're not looking at the rework. They're not looking at the rescoping. They're just not. So the agencies get skittish because they don't have the real information. And I think that when you have that real information, when you can, and you've looked at it transparently the whole time, like you're showing the client the entire time that this is how we're working, we're efficient, we're good. Oh, wait a second, bump, because here it's documented, and da-da-da. Next time you have a much better opportunity to renegotiate. So when you go back for the next project, or you go back to renegotiate your total MSA, you're able to do your master service agreement. You're allowed, you can do it. You have permission to do it because you have the real numbers. You can show the clients that they haven't given you the right budget up front, that they've asked you to do too much on the budget. Or I'm just saying, just to give the client some credit, maybe they did, and you're just completely inefficient. So either way, so you renegotiate with yourself or renegotiate with your client. You have two choices. It's very binary. But this is critical. You have to make informed decisions on precise data.
Completely. We do see this, David. We see that most for hourly rates or for establishing the price, we do see 100% overhead and 15% profits, though we see some of the times profits over 16, 17%. But we start to see a trend in overheads near 80%, first of all, to be competitive in pitches. And also, what we discussed a couple of months ago with you, where clients are requesting agencies the number of profits. So they're asking how much profit they need to put to win a pitch. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a problem, right? Clients are asking. I mean, when was the last time you bought a bar of soap and then went back to the manufacturer and said, you're making too much profit on this, lower the price or I'm going to buy someone else's. But as we know, that does happen in our industry, right?
Yeah,
And
indeed.
again, so if we know that there's a profit limitation, if we know that there's a cap, that's even more reason to be tracking. Like if you don't, let's say you think this is all a lot of crap and somehow you think that we're trying to get you to manage your business and not really pay attention to creative, which is exactly the opposite, as Santi said. Like, let's assume that, so even if we were, just think about that profit cap. That's the thing, right? That's what gets you. So now you know what the profit cap is. That means you must manage your business. It means you must have transparency. And by the way, if the profit cap is bad, you need to have that data so you can go back and renegotiate.
Agree. Great. So, but not all of this, not everything is dead, David. This has a solution, right? So before going to the next topic, which is strategic management with the clients and how to renegotiate fees or how to have health fees, this is just a picture to show what usually happens, right? We estimate resources, FTEs of different positions with an initial budget, but the problem we are having here is that we're waiting too much time to see the deviations, right? We define a scope of work, and then after 1 year, we see what happened with that fee. And the problem is that we lost a lot of money during that year, right? We dedicated a lot of extra resources that once established. So this is what usually happens and why it's crucial to monitor time tracking, right? So let's go to the next topic, which is like a change of focus. Like stop thinking in this mindset of establishing a fee and after 1 year sitting down to review, and start thinking in a different way. The difference between real and budgeted hours provides a solid ground for renegotiating, right? If we can show this difference, if we can show these deviations, we can start a conversation, right? This ties back to our initial conversation. If visibility is a challenge in your operations, how can you provide it to clients? Real data and access to information about a project process, progress, reworks, status, creates great transparency and trust with clients, right? So what we see on a daily basis with agencies that are able to show this visibility to clients is that they have one, healthier relations, first of all, and secondly, they have periodic conversations to review the fee. Because even though for a client, maybe it is profitable in a short time to have you over executing a problem, it's not sustainable in the long term because you're going to lose your resources, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Completely. Yeah. So agencies need to demonstrate to clients the specific causes of time deviations with concrete data. Anticipating and addressing issues based on concrete, timely data can enable these conversations, right? Let's go to the next one. Okay. So just to continue, transparent and strategic management transforms this way of work that I was mentioning at the beginning, where you can show a client, for example, your brand manager is generating all these reworks, all these problems, and all these deviations are problems, issues by the client, right? So it's crucial for us to identify profitable and non-profitable clients. It's key for us. The previous slide, please. Because most of the times, Dave, we discussed this a couple of months ago also. Sometimes you have a client where you're selling several fees or several services, and not all of them have a problem. In not all of them you have deviations. And it's key to identify in which of these services or clients or projects are detracting from profits, right? Maybe we are having a profitable service in community management, software development, but not in another thing, right? So I think it's important to include this initial, so adjusting initial budgets or initial scope of works, right?
Think about it like this, right? Our clients are taking our work, they're putting it into market, and they're tracking everything about that work, the profitability down to the last click or the last sale or the last impression or whatever. That is how they are judging our work for their own profitability. So isn't it foolish that we're not looking out for ourselves in this chain? Why does the profitability of our work begin when we hand it over? Like, it has to start for us back here, because we don't get money on this side. We get the money on that side. And so we need to be on top of it.
And it's funny also, David, what you said at first, that we haven't catch up with the business model yet, right? Consulting firms, global software development shops, law firms, accounting, they've been always selling by hours. The creative industry hasn't been like, as you said, like 30 years ago, but it already happened. Like it's been like 30 years, and we haven't catch up with that. We haven't updated our business model, or if we did, we're doing it very bad. So
I would call it our financial model as opposed to business. I think business model sometimes means different things to different people.
yeah.
But we haven't come up with the financial model, and it's silly. It really is.
Yeah,
silly.
and you see also, for example, these days that big consulting firms have been acquiring large independent agencies, and you can see how like this like Accenture Song or Deloitte Digital or blah blah, how they are incorporating these creative services within their financial or business model, and they are very clear on setting expectations to client. Like they have very clear like what's the position of the person, like how much overhead they're charging, how much profit, and profit is way higher than in agencies, and hourly rate is way higher because they come from this like from consulting mindset, and they stand
Yeah, they know how to
to the
stage it.
client.
They know how to stage the thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. And they stand in front of the client saying, like, I'm gonna hear your problem and I'm gonna solve it this way, and this way, and this last way is creativity, right? So I'm gonna consult you and I'm gonna solve your problem with creativity. It's not like the client defining the campaign or the project, the scope of work, and the client giving us, the agencies, the scope of work already like done, right? So and the agency converts itself in just an execution, right? So like it's a commoditization of the service.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in line what you guys were saying, last week I met a huge consulting firm, global consulting firm that has acquired a creative business, right? And I was discussing exactly the same thing. This manager, the executive, mentioned me that he was in the creative area, and he mentioned me that the other services, consulting, software shops, and then in the same company had a between 45 and 60% profits over the hour. And when they watch this creative business, we still have 4 or 5 minutes. When we watch this creative business with a 15-16% profit, they couldn't understand it. So yes, I think it's a thing that needs to change, right? So just to close what we have been discussing regarding transparency, deviations, it's important that transparency, it's key for this, right? For first of all, having operational visibility, for renegotiating fees, and then for having profitable clients. Without transparency, it's impossible to improve, right? You cannot improve what you do not measure, as we like to say. So, okay, thanks. Let's go to the next topic, and it's regarding billable hours. So let's focus on what's we have discussed about with some benchmarks and some respondents about one of the 2 key pillars to improving profits, right? That is renegotiating fees. So if you have fees that are not profitable, then you won't have a profitable business. On the other hand, let's go to this concept of billable hour market, where even though agencies sell ideas or sell added value, the unit to be sold is hours, right? Hours from a creative, hours from a copywriter, hours from different positions. So that's why we will focus this last part on this, on how to achieve operational efficiency. And with this, I mean how to sell all the available hours. Of course, you won't be able to sell all the hours because people have time dedicated to new businesses that you are not going to win, and you will probably have a team dedicated to that. You're laughing. You will have time dedicated to trainings, to meetings, holidays. So there is time of our talent that we are not actually selling. But how to measure the percentage of time we can sell and how to improve it to the maximum, right? So the first question is the time agencies invest into clients, right? And 2 out of 3 agencies admit that they do not have a detailed tracking of the hours spent on each project, right? So which can lead to profitability and project efficiency challenges. Let's go to the next one. It's crucial to know how many hours are necessary for each project or client, and as David, as you mentioned, to know our team capabilities and how they are being used, right? 32% of agencies manually track time, while almost 1/3 do not track time at all, right? And we believe that time management tools are essential for maximizing productivity. Creatives must adopt, Dave, you mentioned 30 years ago, this didn't happen. So right now, we think that creative must adopt proactive time management strategies. Automatic, manual, But in order to know where time is being spent, if we do not know where time is being spent, there is no chance to be more efficient, right? So in the next slide, we can see that regarding billable hours, in a total time of an agency, most of the respondents spend between 50 and 70% of the times to clients and the other time to internal matters, right? This means there is room, there's still room to optimize efficiency and to reduce the non-billable hours, right? Let's go to the next one, where 4 out of 10 do not have the visibility over the hours dedicated to clients, right? This can be trainings, meetings, new business, all the things we have just been mentioning. And to know if a project is profitable, we must understand how it's scored, right? So in this last item, just to recap, the best possible business an agency can make is to sell all the available hours at the best possible price, right? It's a P per Q business equation. So let's go to the next one, and we can share the benchmark. What we see in here, Dave and everyone, when companies do not measure billable hours and they just execute, when they start measuring, we can see that the start line, it's 25% of the time, right? So similar to reworks, 1 out of 4 weeks is dedicated to internal matters. Of course, for some junior roles, fully dedicated to clients is higher, but in a client-facing picture of all a company, it's 25% internal time, mainly composed by 5 to 10 billable holidays, between 3 to 8% for new businesses, and then trainings and meetings, right? We have a lot of time spent in things that are not built. Any thoughts on this, Dave?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, I think this is really critical. The point that you make, that any small improvement here, even of a couple percentage points, can actually change your profitability in a very profound way. To me, the issue really is, first of all, again, if you go back and you look at and this is what I said before, you have to look at all the information as it comes up, going back to what people said at the core. Most people really aren't tracking this, so they have no clue. This is like their thumb in the air trying to figure out, like, okay, so I have 75% billable, 25% unbillable. Everybody, not just creatives, everybody needs to have some unbillable time. If you clean out holidays and all that, new business, everything, because that's how you renew yourself, right? It's talking to people, it's learning, it's doing, it's very, very critical. I learned this early in my career. But the truth is, we make money based on the billable hours. So if I can maximize my billable hours, if I know what really can track my billable hours and know what they are, it makes the hours that, because I do believe that there's a portion of that 25%, as reported here, that's actually should be billable or might have been billable. They're just not, meaning that they're working on those projects, but they can't bill them. That's the key, right? So I want to know that John here has a percentage of his time that's really his, not that he's working for free against billable hours, because I guarantee you half of that number is that. And unless you track it, you have no clue. So not only are you being less profitable, but you're making John's life more miserable because you're overworking him.
Yeah. Yeah, making John's life more miserable is probably turnover. We are losing talent. If we lose talent, we are not able to provide our added value, our differential. And then, of course, we're going to be a commodity, right? We're just going to offer deliverables, banners, the same from VML, Wunderman, or any independent agencies. So it's like killing the industry inside. So what we see here from this 25%, of course, we see several times worse scenarios, but we see that we can improve it up to 82%, right? Mm-hmm. So we see when you start measuring and you work hard to increase it, you can take it up to 82%. This is just an example where we also have some clients experiencing an 88, 89%. So they are really focused on increasing billable time. This is just an example for an 100 employee agency, where it's a real case, of course, anonymized. When they started measuring, their billable hours were under 74% in a total agency, and they took it up to 82%. In an 100 employee company, this meant 1,200 hours available from the same team, right? Same team. Imagine this for $50 an hour, $100 an hour. So there's a real huge opportunity.
So the only thing that I would say is that it's not just a reduction in time spent on internal matters, because that might be a negative. I think that it's actually giving back to the employee real hours that they can spend on whatever is important, like whatever we're calling internal matters here. So whether it's training, whether it's just sitting around and having lunch with your peers and opening your mind, going to a seminar. Because again, I do believe that the bulk of that time, as it's self-reported here, because it's not real report, it's just kind of self-report, is non-billable time against billable hours. So it's not just that we're actually reducing time spent on internal matters. What we're reducing is the amount of time that we're putting against billable hours that we can't bill for. And that's a crime. That's a tragedy, because that's where we lose profitability. And again, as you said, Franco, that's where we lose people, because now we're working them hard against there's nothing worse than knowing you're working against something you're not getting paid for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody reminds.
And although this presentation is not about, we're not showcasing our product, nothing about it's not a commercial conversation, but it's also important to say that afterwards we're going to have the core awards, and some of we have seen several cases where agencies started before they start using core, they were with 65-70% billable hours, and our benchmark is 82, but we ended up helping these agencies, these agency leaders, to take the company to 89, 90, 91% of billable hours. And this is way more billable time within the same agency with the same amount of people, without hiring new employees, new creative people. So it's really, really boosting profitability just by unlocking billability.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is related to what we discussed at the beginning. So most of the times, CEOs' focus is in winning new business, right? And it's key over there. And you focus on winning a new client to increase profits. Maybe you will add a new client that is unprofitable, just as a disclaimer. But when you win a new client, and let's say it has a fee composed by 10 FTEs, you go outside and hire talent, right? You go and look for those 10 FTEs to start executing and delivering. And most of the times, all this sold time, not all of it, but most of it, it's available in our inside team, right? It's about being more efficient. It's about knowing where people is dedicating their time, to know if we really have available time in our whole team. And that it's about increasing profits, right? It's adding revenue with the same team, or with being more efficient, or adding not the same team on the fee, but understanding our team capacity per capabilities or position, which is the things that we are actually selling. Or even though if we do not sell by FTEs, that it's a thing. I've heard sometimes like, I don't sell FTEs, I sell a deliverable, like a closed deliverable, right? But your main cost is time. Is time from all these people, all these positions, and understanding this is crucial to understand if you are profitable or non-profitable. So yeah, just to close this thing, and before getting into the core awards, small improvements in internal efficiency can have significant impact on financial results, right? Yeah, this is all about benchmarks and report. As we discussed at the beginning, it's not a full report. So if you want, you can download the report, a full report in our websites, okay?
All right. Thank you, Facu. And transitioning from our enlightening discussion, let's celebrate the remarkable achievements within our core community. These are the Latin American Core Awards that Latin American Core Awards represent more than just accolades. They symbolize the hard work, strategic thinking, and operational efficiency of our community members. For me, it's very passionate. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we've been in Brazil. Next week, we are in New York. The week after in Miami. We've been in Argentina 3 weeks ago. And then like we're visiting agencies in, we're going to London, Madrid, and Paris in the next months. And for me, one of the most important or interesting thing is not just go present the benchmarks, doing in-person events, also Mexico and Colombia, which I forgot to mention. This is only in this first quarter and second quarter of this year. And for me, I'm very passionate about going and not just presenting benchmarks and talking with folks, but also creating this community, right? I love seeing how people that like are doers, right? Doers of this community, people that are responsible and love to be responsible for pushing the boundaries, for pushing, like setting the bar high, right? So these core awards are for them, right? For those leaders in this community that are so strong that can take an unhealthy business and take it to become a healthy one, right? So let's start with the awards announcement, where we are going to highlight the incredible accomplishments of our community. We're going to reward those teams who not only deliver value to their clients, but they do it in an efficient, transparent, and profitable way. As you all know, this industry is like has a lot of awards for the creative people, which of course, because it's very necessary. Like our business unit, which is the time, is composed by creativity, right? So we sell hours that have creativity within it, right? So if we're selling creativity, it's lovely to have a lot of awards for our creative leaders. These core awards is for those that are taking the operations and the finance of these agencies to the next level. So, Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, look, it's an honor to be part of this. This is actually one of my favorite parts, because the truth of the matter is, as you said, we give out creative awards. We all love to go to Cannes. We'll be there in June. You're all welcome to visit me at the Stagwell Sports Beach. We celebrate New York festivals, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We celebrate our creativity. But I really do believe that this is every bit as important, not just for operational efficiency, in other words, to our financial people, but to the creatives as well. Like I would be interested in, and Santi, maybe this is something, and Faco, maybe this is something we do for next year, but let's go back and look at the people who are on the system and the awards that they've won. And I'd be very interested to understand the relationship between being able to operationalize and have your best creatives work on the right projects at the right time, and what a difference that makes to your business. So let's unveil the winners and just start celebrating people who are doing great things with their agencies.
Right, let's go. So our first category celebrates operational efficiency, and this category rewards those agencies that have over 80% of the users' login hours, utilization of reworks, project templates, and integrations in place. So these are the 5 companies: Sancho BBDO, Milo Delta, DDB Colombia, DDB Centro, and Garnier BBDO from Costa Rica. A lot of Omnicom in here. These are all the
this is a big clap to Omnicom, and of course Milan of Delta.
Yeah, indeed. These are all the gold winners, and then we also have a silver category. Next slide. That it's been for Madison DDV, SM Digital, Darwin and Bern, and the Juju, part of an also big network in Latin America. Let's go to the next category.
So the next category is projects delivered on time. And we didn't talk about this because we didn't have time, but the truth of the matter is, one of the questions, and everybody should download this study to look at it, but one of the questions was your relationship with your client. Now, we all know that delivering a project on time is one of the most important aspects of keeping a good relationship with your client, because when you screw that up, that is where some of the biggest issues start to show up, when you're constantly late, when you haven't kept to the time schedule. And so when you think about it, having better outcomes in terms of deliveries is it's not a nice thing, it's a critical thing. It's important for your relationship. So these are the teams that have shown remarkable dedication to meeting deadlines. They get it, they understand why it's important and why workflow and time management is critical to delivering. So that's the winners in this category are DDB Centro, Sancho BDNO, who's picked up their second award, as did DDB Centro. And the silver goes to Contactica. Did I pronounce it right?
Contactica.
My Spanish, you know, my Spanish sucks. Contactica.
Yeah, this Contactica is an independent agency. So,
yeah, very good. We like having independence in here.
Yeah. So silver.
Delivery a tiempo. Guys, excellent. We love it.
Yeah. So the gold. Sorry, what did you say, Dave?
Was there one more silver winner? I guess not. I thought there was.
So for projects delivered on time, we have gold DDB Centro and Sancho BBDO, and silver Contactica.
Okay, great.
Great. And our next category is something we have been discussing in our whole meeting, and it's transparency to the clients, right? This category recognizes those who have integrated their clients into their operations, providing visibility and transparency. It's crucial in today's environment to maintain an open and honest relationship with clients. And this agency, Sancho BBDO, the winner of the Gold Award, third award, has been doing in an excellent way, renegotiating fees with transparency and having excellent client relations. My congratulations to Sancho BBDO, one of the biggest BBDO's offices around the world, right?
Yeah, they're always, in my experience, always was a great competitor, and and you can see why.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
David, that this BBDO office has over 1,000 employees. They're based out of Colombia. Yeah, and I think it's the first or the second largest office, like BBDO office around the world.
Yeah, I know them well. Like I said, we competed against them for forever, and they're a great agency.
Mhm. Lovely. So the next one is quality delivery. David?
I'll take
Yeah,
this one.
sure.
I think this is really interesting, right? Because think about it. What we're saying is quality delivery as measured, right, guys, by the lowest amount of reworks requested by clients. So what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with measuring your time? Well, it has everything to do with it, because I would argue pretty strongly, as I do believe probably Great Columbia, who wins this, does, that when you're tracking your time, when you're paying attention to your deliverables, when you're putting the right people on and not just throwing people at a certain point because you've run out of people, you haven't budgeted the time of the right people at the right place, it makes your reworks less. Having the right people, bringing the right people to the table just improves the quality of your work. Just fact. It just does. So this is not fiction. This is real. So high quality delivery is all about cutting out reworks. And you get there by making sure you have the right people working on the right projects at the right time, which you can only do if you know who's working on what and how many hours you actually have. So congratulations to Great Columbia. Columbia is doing really well in this, very definitely leading the world. But Great Columbia, well done.
All right. So congratulations to all our winners. And we're very happy. Like, your achievements reflect the hard work and dedication that define our core community. And you've set the benchmarks for operational efficiency, for transparency and quality, that this all inspire us, right? So thank you for your commitment to excellence and for making core an integral part of your success. Thank you, David, for being here. Thank you, Facu, as well.
Thank you, guys. Listen, I look forward to this every year. And I think that having gotten to this place where we have major important agencies who are not just using the system, but are proud to get these awards is really critical. I think that's where the game change starts to happen.
I agree, Dave. I agree, and it's it's interesting. As I was saying, like, it's interesting to go visit these big cities. Again, I'm also be with the I'm also be at Cannes. Facu is also going to be at Cannes as well. Not at Stagwell Sports Beach, but we're going to be there as well. And it's amazing to see all the community, the core community that we are creating around the world, right? These awards are focused on Latin America, but it's amazing to go visit these cities, do these like offline, in-person events, present the benchmarks, present the trends, and seeing all these people, like all these leaders, operational, financial, and like CEOs, also like executive leaders, talk about discuss, see if they are related or not with the benchmarks, that we are presenting. So it's really nurturing, and building this community is one of the things we like the most. So thank you, David. Thank you, Facu. Thank you to all of you, all the ones that have joined us today, and the ones that couldn't make it but are there. Congratulations to all the winners, and we look forward to continuing this journey with you, embracing the challenges and celebrating the victories. So goodbye for now, and here's to a future with innovation, growth, and success.
Thank you, everybody. See you on the crusade.
Bye-bye.